So a couple of things I'd like to clear up. I find it very ironic that the Republicans are trying to hold Obama responsible for the disaster in the Gulf for a couple of reasons. Ever since Reagan and all the way through Bush, the Republicans have had a mantra, and that mantra has been deregulation. And they would deregulate everything they possibly could through one way or another. One way they would deregulate is to write bills and pass legislation to deregulate. This is how credit default swaps, for example, were deregulated. And credit default swaps were ultimately used by Goldman Sachs in order to bet against the housing market and then sabotage it, causing it to fail. And of course, they collect their winnings from AIG, which we as taxpayers had to bail out so that they could pay out to Goldman Sachs. So all that money we gave to AIG actually went to Goldman Sachs to pay out all these credit default swaps that Goldman Sachs had out when they bet against the housing markets. Another way of deregulating is to appoint political operatives who will go in there and fail to enforce regulations. And Bush and Cheney in particular were notorious for appointing industry insiders, foxes to guard the hen houses, people who were industry insiders who were appointed to regulate those industries, and they would fail to enforce regulations. And they would allow corporations to get away with all kinds of stuff. And this is the environment in which BP was allowed to take shortcuts with safety protocols regularly, repeatedly, and consistently. BP was a ticking time bomb. As we are finding out, it was only a matter of time before an accident of this magnitude was going to happen, okay? Because they were repeatedly taking shortcuts with safety regulations. And the regulators were doing nothing. They were instructed to do nothing. Don't enforce regulations. Party with lobbyists, okay? And this is what they did. Now, one might try to claim that Obama has had time to replace these regulators, replace these appointments. But a funny thing is happening in the Senate, and that is Republicans are obstructing appointments. There are hundreds of appointments that Obama is trying to make that are being put on hold by Republicans in the Senate. So they're just dragging their feet when it comes to appointments. They are failing to approve appointments that Obama is making, and they are dragging their feet and trying to make the needed changes to these positions as regulators in the industry. Okay, so I hold the Republicans completely responsible for the lax safety regulations, for allowing BP to operate by taking shortcuts in their safety protocols. I hold the Republicans pretty much 100% responsible for that. Okay, now to the extent that I find Obama at fault, and liberals and progressives find fault in the way Obama is handling this catastrophe, is that he's not cracking down hard enough on BP. But you know, with the Republicans, even the escrow fund put aside by BP is being met with claims of Chicago-style shakedowns, and the government is extorting a private corporation with political slush funds. It's absolutely ridiculous. You know why that escrow fund is there? That escrow fund is there because BP is going to do the same thing through the courts that Republicans are doing in Congress, and that is to drag their feet for as long as possible to prevent the process from going through, to delay and stall the process for as long as possible, decades. Meanwhile, people who have been affected in the here and now by this oil spill need help immediately in order to survive. Okay? This escrow account is not what the final settlement is going to be. It's a small token amount of the money that BP is going to be, held liable for. But this is money that will be available to help people immediately in the here and now, because we have every reason to believe that BP is going to hire an army of lawyers to forestall, delay, obstruct the process of litigation in BP's liabilities and And decades from now, it's going to be too late, okay? So even this is being met with derision by Republicans. Of course, they're backpedaling now because, you know, they, they let it be known to the taxpayer that they're on BP's side. And of course, they're always on corporate America's side. They have no qualms about claiming that money equals free speech. The more money you have, the more speech you should have. And they feel as though if you have more money, that means you should have more representation. That's exactly what Republicans intend to do, okay? They've got no qualms about it, but it undermines democracy. It's un-American, it's undemocratic, all right? So I have to disagree. I've got some problems with Obama not taking firm enough action with BP, but to tell you the truth, you know, with Republicans, it would be 100 times worse. 100 times worse, all right? Now, to the extent I followed Obama, it's not being tough enough with BP. I find the escrow account to be a step in the right direction, but I think there's got to be a lot more in response, okay? Because BP is a big company and the legal process is not going to work in a timely function. Justice delayed is almost as bad as no justice at all, okay? We need to expedite this process in getting this situation corrected. So, and that's something that I don't feel is being pushed hard enough by the Obama administration. Even this escrow account is being met with derision by Republicans. So that's all I'm going to say for now. Thanks for watching. Bye.